to the C.Smiley channel, where my phone was charged and we could do a little live. I was going to do some reading here in Iglesias again, chapter 7. You know, there's some harsh stuff right there being said. I got a lot highlighted and underlined from back when I used to just read it all the time. Now my eyesight is fucking gone. Blurry as shit. Talks about how did this writer know about deceitful women. He probably gone through some shit and he just wrote it down to say, hey, this is what I went through. You know what I mean? Right. But anyways, chapter 7, wisdom, man. I like good wisdom. May have to come back to that and read it. But anyways, let's get some Carl Oon up in us. This channel. As I'm prepping, getting ready.
He believed healing first makes you dangerous.
Does it?
Not dangerous in the violent sense. Dangerous because you begin seeing things. Most people think healing will make them happier. Carl Jung believed something far more disturbing. He believed healing first makes you dangerous. Not dangerous in the violent sense. Dangerous because you begin seeing things that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Patterns, contradictions, hidden motives behind ordinary behavior. You start noticing how often people confuse attachment with love, control with care, and obedience with connection. And once that perception changes, something uncomfortable happens.
What's that?
You can no longer participate in certain relationships the same way. The laughter still sounds normal. The conversations still happen. The routines remain untouched.
Yeah.
But underneath it, you begin sensing invisible negotiations taking place inside almost every interaction. Who needs validation? Who needs control?
Who needs it?
Who fears abandonment?
Nobody needs it, right?
Who survives by
Or we
manipulating
feel like
perception?
we do.
Suddenly, human behavior stops looking random. It starts looking predictable. Jung once wrote that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid confronting their own soul. And if you observe carefully, you begin realizing how true that really is. Some people stay busy to avoid themselves. Some stay desirable. Some stay needed. Some stay wounded. Because pain can become an identity, and identities do not disappear quietly. That is why healing often creates conflict long before it creates peace. The moment you stop tolerating what once felt normal, people begin reacting to you differently. Not because you became cruel, but because you became harder to control unconsciously. A person who fears abandonment can be guilted. A person starving for validation can be manipulated. A person afraid of loneliness will betray themselves just to keep someone close. But a person who has confronted their inner emptiness becomes unpredictable. They no longer beg for closeness that costs them their self-respect. And this is where the real transformation begins. Not when you love yourself, not when you become confident, but when you finally notice how much of your previous tolerance came from psychological survival. Because most people are not patient. They are afraid to leave. Most people are not understanding. They are emotionally dependent. Most people are not too nice. They are terrified that rejection will confirm what they secretly believe about themselves. So they endure things that slowly destroy them. Disrespect, inconsistency, humiliation disguised as jokes, emotional neglect disguised as independence, and they call it love because the alternative is facing a terrifying possibility. That many of their relationships only survived because they had no boundaries. Then one day you realize it was survival, and survival creates strange personalities. Carl Jung believed that the personality most people present to the world is often a mask, a carefully constructed identity designed to gain acceptance, avoid rejection, and maintain belonging. He called this the persona. The terrifying thing about the persona is that eventually, even you start believing it. You become the understanding one. The calm one, the reliable one, the easygoing one. And because people grow comfortable with that version of you, they begin expecting it permanently. They stop seeing your humanity. They start seeing your function. That's why healing shocks people. Because the role suddenly changes.
Yeah.
The person who always tolerated disrespect begins going silent.
Oh.
The person who always over-explained starts saying less.
Yep.
The person who constantly made themselves emotionally available suddenly becomes unreachable.
Word.
And others interpret this as arrogance. But often, it's the first honest thing you've done in years. People don't resent your weakness. They resent the possibility that you might outgrow them. That realization changes the atmosphere around you. You begin noticing how many social interactions are built on invisible power dynamics rather than genuine connection. Some people only feel safe around you when you are uncertain about yourself. Some relationships survive only because you were carrying all the emotional weight alone, and healing quietly removes your willingness to carry it. This is why growth often feels socially disruptive. Because once self-respect enters the room, many relationships lose the chemistry that kept them alive. You stop laughing at things that humiliate you. You stop rewarding inconsistency. You stop chasing closure from people committed to misunderstanding you. And strangely, this doesn't always make you feel powerful. Sometimes it makes you feel deeply alone. Because awareness isolates before it liberates. You begin seeing conversations differently, compliments differently, even attraction differently.
I do.
You notice how some people are drawn to your wounds, not your soul. Your insecurity made them feel powerful. Your emotional availability made them feel important. Your lack of boundaries made them feel safe from accountability.
Yeah.
But now something inside you has shifted. You no longer confuse attention with care. And this is where healing becomes psychologically uncomfortable. Because the more conscious you become, the harder it is to maintain illusions that once protected you from reality. You start realizing some people never loved you. They loved their access to you, your silence, your forgiveness, your emotional labor, your patience, not you. And once that realization enters your mind, ordinary interactions begin feeling strangely hollow. You start hearing manipulation hidden inside concern, possessiveness hidden inside affection, envy hidden inside jokes. The social world begins revealing its shadow, and the worst part? Most people don't even know they're doing it. That's what makes human behavior so disturbing once you begin seeing clearly. Very little of it is fully conscious. People speak in rational language, but beneath the surface, older forces are moving them insecurity, fear, envy, loneliness, shame, the desperate need to feel significant. Jung understood this better than most.
Why?
He believed every human being carries a shadow, the hidden part of themselves they refuse to acknowledge, the impulses they deny, the emotions they suppress, the traits they condemn in others because they cannot face them within themselves. And the shadow does not disappear because it is ignored. It leaks into relationships, into friendships, into love, into family, especially into the people closest to us. That's why healing changes your perception so violently. You begin noticing that many conflicts are not actually about the surface issue at all. The friend angry at your success is not upset about your success. They are confronting their own stagnation through you. The partner accusing you of changing is often terrified of losing control over the dynamic they became comfortable with. The family member mocking your boundaries feels subconsciously threatened by the fact that you are breaking patterns they normalized long ago. Awareness transforms ordinary conversations into psychological mirrors, and most people hate mirrors because mirrors force confrontation. There's a reason some people become irritated the moment you become healthier. Your healing silently exposes what they avoid confronting inside themselves. A person comfortable living unconsciously will always feel unsettled around someone becoming conscious, not because you attacked them, but because your transformation interrupts the fantasy that their own behavior is normal. Most relationships don't end when respect disappears. They end when awareness appears. That's the part nobody warns you about.
No, but yeah,
healing doesn't just reveal others. It reveals you, the versions of yourself you created to survive. You begin remembering how often you abandoned your instincts just to maintain connection. How many times your body sensed danger before your mind allowed itself to admit it. How often you betrayed yourself trying to avoid being abandoned by others. And slowly, an uncomfortable truth emerges. Many people are not afraid of losing relationships. They are afraid of losing access to validation, access to emotional labor, access to control, access to familiarity. That's why boundaries provoke such intense reactions. Healthy people may not always like your boundaries, but they usually respect them. Manipulative people experience boundaries as rejection because your limits interfere with their access. And once you see this pattern repeatedly, something inside you changes permanently. You stop feeling guilty for protecting your peace. You stop explaining boundaries to people committed to violating them. You stop mistaking tolerance for virtue, because tolerance becomes dangerous when it forces you to betray yourself. The healed version of you starts understanding something darker about human nature. Many people will only love you as long as you remain useful to their emotional needs. The moment you become difficult to control, difficult to guilt, difficult to drain, their perception of you changes. Suddenly you are selfish, cold, different, too much. But
You're a
what
cookie.
actually changed is simpler than that. You stopped negotiating against yourself.
The
And for
cookie
people
crumbled.
who benefited from your lack of self-worth, that transformation feels like loss. There comes a point in healing where you stop asking, why did they treat me that way? And you begin asking something far more dangerous. Why did I accept it for so long? That question changes everything, because now the spotlight turns inward. The mind usually wants villains. It wants clear betrayal, obvious manipulation, visible cruelty. But healing forces you into a darker realization. Some of the suffering in your life continued because part of you was psychologically attached to it, not consciously, but deeply. Jung believed that what remains unconscious controls us from beneath the surface, and many people unconsciously repeat painful relationship patterns because familiarity feels safer than freedom. The nervous system prefers predictable pain over unfamiliar peace. That's why people return to relationships that drain them. Why they confuse emotional chaos with passion. Why they feel strangely uncomfortable around healthy love. The wounded mind often interprets calmness as emptiness because it was trained to associate intensity with connection. And this realization becomes deeply unsettling once you begin seeing it everywhere. You notice how some people only feel emotionally alive inside instability, how they create conflict when peace arrives, how they sabotage closeness the moment vulnerability becomes real. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because suffering became psychologically familiar. The human mind will cling to what is familiar even when it is destroying itself. That includes identities, especially identities. For years, maybe your identity was built around being needed, being chosen, being understanding, being emotionally available no matter how poorly others treated you. And healing threatens that entire structure. Because if you are no longer sacrificing yourself for approval, who are you? If you stop rescuing everyone, who remains beside you? If you stop overextending yourself emotionally, who still calls? Those questions create a terrifying emptiness. Because healing is not just losing unhealthy people. Sometimes it feels like losing the entire personality you built to survive loneliness. And in that silence, something strange happens. You begin noticing how much of society rewards self-abandonment. People praise you when you overgive. They admire your patience when it benefits them. They call you mature when you tolerate disrespect quietly. But the moment you prioritize your own psychological well-being, the tone changes. Now you're distant, hard to reach, too serious, changed. The truth is, most social systems are designed to preserve comfort, not truth. And healed people become disruptive because they stop participating in emotional performances that keep dysfunctional dynamics alive. You stop pretending disrespect is accidental when it's repeated consistently. You stop calling emotional neglect busy schedules. You stop translating bare minimum effort into love. Awareness sharpens your perception until excuses begin sounding hollow. And this creates another painful realization. Many relationships survive not because they are healthy, but because one person is willing to tolerate emotional imbalance indefinitely. Once tolerance disappears, the relationship begins revealing what it truly was. That's why healing often feels like waking up inside your own life and suddenly recognizing the architecture of every interaction around you. The power dynamics, the emotional dependencies, the subtle manipulations, the invisible negotiations happening underneath ordinary conversation. And after enough awareness, you can no longer return to sleep. Once that awakening begins, something irreversible happens to your perception of people. You stop listening only to words. You start studying patterns. The delay before someone replies when you finally stop initiating. The sudden change in energy when you become confident. The discomfort certain people feel when you no longer need their validation. You begin realizing that human behavior is rarely random. Most people reveal themselves indirectly. Not through what they claim, but through what consistently repeats. And repetition is where the unconscious exposes itself. A person may tell you they care about you while repeatedly disrespecting your boundaries. They may promise loyalty while disappearing whenever your life becomes inconvenient to them. They may speak kindly to your face while subtly competing with you underneath the surface. The conscious mind speaks in language. The unconscious speaks in patterns. That realization changes the way you experience almost every relationship. You notice how some people need you insecure because your insecurity keeps the hierarchy intact. As long as you doubt yourself, they remain psychologically above you. Your healing silently threatens that structure. And this is where social dynamics become darker than most people are willing to admit. Not every relationship is built on love. Many are built on mutual unconscious agreements. I will stay small so you feel comfortable. I will overgive so you don't leave. I will suppress my needs so this connection survives. These agreements are rarely spoken aloud, but they control entire relationships for years. Healing breaks the contract. And when the contract breaks, people often reveal who they truly are beneath politeness. Some become distant, some become defensive. Some suddenly accuse you of changing, but occasionally the reaction becomes even darker. They attempt to pull you back into your old identity, the agreeable version, the guilty version, the emotionally dependent version, because people often feel safest when you remain psychologically predictable. Growth makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability threatens control. This is why certain people become irritated when you become calmer, more self-contained, more emotionally independent. Your peace removes their influence. There's a disturbing truth hidden inside many social interactions. Some people do not want connection. They want access. Access to your attention, your reassurance, your emotional energy, your softness. And the moment access becomes limited, their behavior changes. Suddenly the affection fades. The effort disappears. The warmth turns conditional. That's when healing forces one of the hardest realizations a person can experience. A large percentage of human relationships are transactional beneath the surface, not always financially, emotionally, psychologically, socially. People stay where their emotional needs are fed, and once you stop feeding certain dynamics, you discover which relationships were sustained by genuine care, and which were sustained by your willingness to abandon yourself. That realization can make the world feel colder. For a while, you may even become emotionally detached, hyper-aware, suspicious of everyone. The mind swings too far in the opposite direction because it is trying to protect itself from ever becoming unconscious again. But Jung warned about this too. The goal is not to become numb. The goal is to become conscious without becoming consumed by bitterness. And that requires confronting something even deeper than other people's behavior. Your own shadow. The shadow is not just the darkness inside you. It is the version of yourself you were taught to hide in order to remain loved. Your anger, your selfishness, your ambition, your envy, your need for recognition, your capacity to leave. Most people spend their entire lives trying to appear good, while unconsciously burying every trait that might threaten acceptance. But buried emotions do not disappear. They wait, and eventually they begin controlling behavior from underneath the personality. That's why people who suppress anger often become passive-aggressive.
My bad.
Why people who deny insecurity become obsessed with superiority.
My bad.
Why people who pretend to be endlessly selfless secretly resent everyone around them. The shadow always finds expression, consciously or destructively. Healing forces you into confrontation with this hidden part of yourself.
Sure does.
And honestly, this stage terrifies most people, because it's easier to see manipulation in others than dependency within yourself. Easier to notice narcissism in others than control within yourself. Easier to condemn betrayal than confront your own fear of abandonment. But real awareness destroys this illusion of moral purity. You begin realizing that even your good behaviors sometimes had unconscious motives beneath them. You weren't always kind purely from love. Sometimes you were kind because you feared rejection. You weren't always patient because you were emotionally mature. Sometimes you were patient because confrontation terrified you. You weren't always giving because you were generous. Sometimes giving became a strategy to earn worth. That realization hits the ego like cold water, because suddenly your entire identity becomes less certain. The mind wants to divide people into good and bad, victim and villain, healthy and toxic. But the deeper you understand human nature, the more complicated everything becomes. Everyone carries contradictions. The same person capable of deep love may also be capable of manipulation.
Yeah, she said no.
The same person capable of loyalty may also betray when fear overwhelms them. The same person capable of kindness may secretly envy the people they care about most. Human beings are not stable creatures. They are psychological battlegrounds. And once you truly understand this, you stop expecting perfection from others. But something else happens too. You stop romanticizing them. That changes your entire perception of attraction, relationships, even friendship. You begin noticing how often people fall in love with fantasies rather than reality. They project idealized identities onto each other because seeing clearly would destroy the illusion holding the connection together. Most relationships survive through selective blindness.
Ludicrous.
Healing removes that blindness. You stop ignoring inconsistencies because someone is attractive. You stop excusing emotional instability because someone is charming. You stop confusing chemistry with compatibility. Because awareness teaches you something painful. Intense connection does not always mean healthy connection. Sometimes trauma recognizes trauma. Sometimes wounds recognize wounds. Sometimes loneliness recognizes loneliness. And people mistake psychological familiarity for destiny. But eventually, healing creates a strange emotional shift. You no longer crave intensity the same way. You start craving truth, even if the truth is colder. Even if the truth ruins illusions you once needed in order to feel loved. Because illusions comfort the ego, but they quietly destroy the soul. Eventually, healing reaches a stage where your entire relationship with loneliness begins to change.
I ain't gonna say name.
At first, loneliness felt like rejection. Now it starts feeling like clarity. You realize how much noise existed in your life simply because silence forced you to confront yourself. How many relationships were maintained not from connection, but from fear of being alone with your own thoughts?
I don't know.
Most people would rather remain emotionally crowded than psychologically honest. Because silence reveals things. It reveals dependency. It reveals insecurity. It reveals how often attention was used as anesthesia against emptiness. And when healing strips those distractions away, many people panic. They rush back toward old relationships, old habits, old emotional patterns. Not because those things were good for them, but because unconscious suffering feels more familiar than conscious solitude. That is why so many people sabotage their own healing. Awareness becomes unbearable when identity has been built around dysfunction. The person who spent years being needed feels worthless without someone to rescue. The person addicted to validation feels invisible without constant attention. The person conditioned to chase emotionally unavailable people feels strangely empty when someone finally treats them well. Because healing does not only remove pain, it removes the identities attached to pain. And identity loss feels like death to the ego. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Most people read that sentence intellectually. Few understand what it actually means. Consciousness hurts because it forces you to watch illusions collapse in real time. You watch yourself outgrow conversations that once entertained you. You watch your tolerance disappear for behaviors you once normalized. You watch your emotional attachment fade toward people you thought would remain in your life forever. And perhaps the darkest realization of all, some people only fit into your life when you hated yourself. That realization changes the emotional atmosphere permanently. You begin understanding why certain relationships fit into your life when you hate your emotional attachment fade to you watch yourself. Most people read that sentence intellectually. Few understand what it actually means. Consciousness hurts because it forces you to watch illusions collapse in real time. You watch yourself outgrow conversations that once entertained you. You watch your tolerance disappear for behaviors you once normalized. You watch your emotional attachment fade toward people you thought would remain in your life forever. And perhaps the darkest realization of all, some people only fit into your life when you hated yourself.
What?
That realization changes the emotional atmosphere permanently. You begin understanding why certain relationships suddenly stop functioning once your self-respect grows.
Right?
Your healing disrupts the emotional hierarchy the relationship depended on.
It does.
The insecure version of you was easier to control, easier to guilt, easier to manipulate through fear of abandonment. But the healed version becomes dangerous, not violent, not cruel, just unwilling. Unwilling to beg for consistency, unwilling to chase reciprocity, unwilling to keep translating disrespect into miscommunication. And this creates distance between you and the world around you.
I know.
Because most social environments quietly depend on unconscious compromise. People tolerate what drains them because confrontation risks isolation. They stay inside familiar emotional prisons because freedom requires uncertainty. But once awareness fully enters your life, you start noticing something strange. Peace becomes more attractive than attachment. You stop needing everyone to understand you. You stop trying to convince people of your value. You stop forcing emotional intimacy with people incapable of meeting you deeply. And in that state, something cold but liberating emerges. You realize that many people never actually saw you. They saw the role you played in their emotional world: the healer, the listener, the pursuer, the forgiving one. But healing stripped the performance away. And once the performance disappeared, so did many of the relationships. After enough healing, you stop experiencing people the same way. Not because you become heartless, but because illusion no longer protects your perception. You begin noticing how fragile most identities really are, how quickly kindness disappears when someone feels embarrassed, how fast loyalty changes when status enters the room, how often morality bends under loneliness, desire, fear, or social pressure. Human beings like to imagine themselves as rational creatures, but most behavior is emotional survival wearing intellectual clothing. People betray values to preserve belonging. They betray people to preserve ego. They betray themselves to avoid abandonment. And usually they justify it afterward with language that sounds reasonable enough to protect their self-image. That's the frightening thing about self-awareness. The deeper you look into human psychology, the harder it becomes to see anyone as entirely innocent, including yourself, especially yourself, because eventually healing forces one final confrontation. You realize that part of your suffering came from wanting reality to be emotionally softer than it truly is. You wanted loyalty to guarantee permanence. You wanted love to guarantee honesty. You wanted effort to guarantee reciprocity. But human nature does not operate according to fairness. People change when emotions change, needs change, fears change, identities change, and many connections that feel eternal are actually temporary psychological alignments between two unfinished people. That realization can make the world feel unbearably cold at first, until another realization quietly replaces it. The point of healing was never to become naive enough to trust everyone, nor cynical enough to trust no one. It was to see clearly, to stop demanding permanence from temporary things, to stop confusing emotional intensity with meaning, to stop sacrificing yourself trying to earn what should be given freely. Because the more conscious you become, the more you understand something almost nobody wants to admit. A large portion of human interaction is driven by unconscious need. Need for validation, need for certainty, need for control, need to escape loneliness, need to feel superior, need to feel chosen. And once those needs disappear, many relationships disappear with them. That is why healing changes your social world so dramatically. You are no longer relating to people from hunger. You are relating from awareness, and awareness changes the energy completely. You become slower to attach, harder to manipulate, less seduced by charm, less impressed by appearances. You stop asking, "Do they like me?" and begin asking, "Who do I become around them?" That question alone can destroy entire relationships. Because some people pull you toward anxiety, some toward performance, some toward self-doubt, some toward emotional exhaustion, and others toward peace. Real healing teaches you to notice the difference. Not through words, through your nervous system, through the silence after conversations, through the tension in your body, through whether your spirit expands or contracts around certain people. Because the body notices what the mind tries to rationalize. And maybe that is the final realization hiding underneath all of this. The more you heal, the less you tolerate. Not because you think you're better than others, but because you finally understand the cost of betraying yourself.
Maybe.
Once you've experienced the psychological exhaustion of abandoning your own instincts long enough, peace stops feeling lonely. It starts feeling sacred. And maybe that is the final tragedy of human nature. Most people never lose others. They lose themselves trying not to. They spend years tolerating disrespect to avoid loneliness, then wake up one day emotionally disconnected from their own instincts, their own needs, their own identity, smiling in rooms that quietly drain them. loving people who only knew the version of them that lacked boundaries. But healing changes that.
Healing changes
Not loudly,
everything.
quietly, like a door inside your mind slowly closing against everything that once consumed you. And once that door closes, you realize peace was never emptiness. It was freedom from performance, freedom from chasing, freedom from explaining, freedom from shrinking yourself so others could remain comfortable around your wounds. The more you heal, the less you tolerate, because awareness leaves you with no other choice. You finally see what certain relationships cost your nervous system, your self-respect, your soul, and after seeing clearly for long enough, you stop negotiating against yourself just to keep people who were only loyal to the version of you that suffered silently. Because the deepest form of loneliness was never being alone. It was being disconnected from yourself while surrounded by everyone else. So now I want to ask you something. What is one behavior, relationship, or pattern you used to tolerate that you can no longer ignore after healing? Comment it below.
Fucking weird. Way to end a. Let's listen to this one.
Is your phone running hot for no reason?
Yeah.
Battery draining fast? Getting random login alerts?
Yeah.
That usually means someone is...
You crawled up this mountain, didn't you? On your hands and knees like a beggar. Like someone who ain't ever had a taste of real hunger. You came for answers. You came for change. Well, you ain't gonna like what I'm about to tell you. But you better listen close. They wanted a monster, huh? Those people. The ones who looked at you like you wasn't enough. Like you was too small. Too weak to matter. They saw what you tried to be. Saw the fire in your heart. And you know what they did? They crushed it. They spat on it like it was nothing. They wanted a monster. Something darker. Something twisted. Something they could fear. Well then, you give them what they asked for. You think the world's soft. Nah, son. The world don't owe you a damn thing. Life's cruel. Life's cold. You think anyone out here is gonna feel sorry for you? Gonna cry tears over what you lost? Over how hard you worked? They'll forget your name before the sun sets. They'll laugh at your scars and call you weak before they turn around and pretend you never existed. So you want their respect. You want them to feel the fire they stoked inside you. And you stop being the victim. You stop pleading for mercy. Mercy ain't ever saved anyone. Sure as hell ain't gonna save you. They see you as a beast? Good. Show them how right they were. Show them what a cornered animal does when it's got nowhere to run. You tear apart everything in your path. You take their hate, their doubt, their words like knives, and you sharpen them into weapons. You want power? It's there. It's in the pain they gave you. Every single lie they fed you. Every single time they turned their backs. That's where your strength lies. But let me tell you something. And listen close now. Because this is where most people lose the thread. Don't just be a monster for them. Be a monster for you. You ain't here to prove nothing to nobody. You ain't got nothing to prove to this world that tried to bury you. Nah, this is about survival. from nothing. And now you're here, looking at me, asking for what? Permission? Validation? You ain't getting that from me, kid. You ain't getting no good job or a pat on the back. You want to stand at the top? Then you better be ready to fight for every damn inch. Ain't nobody else gonna climb this mountain for you. Look, life ain't a story. You ain't the hero in some fairy tale. Heroes get slaughtered. They get forgotten. Buried under the weight of their own righteousness. You wanna be a hero? Go ahead and die for some cause nobody's gonna remember. But you wanna live, right? You wanna win. Then you gotta stop thinking like a hero. Start thinking like a monster. You burn down the forest. You salt the earth. You leave nothing behind for anyone to follow. You take what's yours, and you don't apologize for it. You become the thing they fear. You use their hate. You wear it like armor. You feel that pain.
How can you listen
That's
to
your
this
fuel
and love
now.
Jesus at the same
You feed
time?
on it. You let it push you forward when you're too tired to move. And when they come crawling back, begging for mercy, begging for
That's not what
forgiveness,
Jesus talks about.
you
It
don't
says
even
to
look
do.
their way. Because monsters don't forgive. Monsters don't forget. You wanted strength. It's right here. In the ashes. In the blood. In the bones of everything they tried to break in you. You think this is some kind of game. You think you're just gonna walk back down this mountain after everything you've been through, and they're gonna welcome you with open arms? Nah, let me tell you how it's really gonna go. You're gonna go back down there, and they're gonna look at you like you've changed. And you know what? They're right. You have changed. You ain't the same person who started that climb, and that scares them. You know why they wanted you weak? Because weakness is easy. Weakness is controllable. But you're not weak anymore. You ain't the person they can push around. The one who would bow their head and keep quiet. That version of you. Gone. Buried. And now they don't know what to do with you. You know what the funny thing is?
What?
They asked for this. They wanted to see what you'd become when you hit your breaking point. They didn't think you'd survive it. They thought you'd crumble like they did. Thought you'd fade away. Just another forgotten face in a sea of failures. But you didn't, did you? Nah. You crawled up this mountain, bleeding, clawing, dragging yourself every step of the way. And now you stand at the top, looking down at them, and they can't handle it. You ever wonder why they hate strength so much? It's 'cause strength don't need permission.
Because they didn't
Strength
have the
don't
courage
wait
to
for
do it.
approval. You got it now. Real strength. Not the fake kind they pretend to have. And they can't stand it. They see the power in your eyes, and it burns them. Makes them feel small. Makes them remember all the things they'll never be. But that's not your problem. You ain't here to make them feel better. You ain't here to soothe their egos or make them comfortable. You climbed this mountain for you. You fought every step of the way for you. And now, you've got a choice to make. You go back down there, show them what you become, or you keep climbing, leave them in the dust, and never look back. You think they deserve to see this version of you? The version version they tried so hard to destroy? Or do you show them what real destruction looks like? You tear down everything they ever knew, everything they ever thought about you, and you don't stop until there's nothing left. You want to know what it means to be a monster? It means you don't play by their rules anymore. You don't wait for them to tell you who you are. You decide who you are, and they either fall in line or they get out of your way. They wanted a monster? Then let them have it. Give them every ounce of the rage, the pain, the hunger you've been holding back. Let it loose. They thought they knew you. They thought they could predict your every move. But now they're looking at something they don't understand. And nothing terrifies them more than the unknown. The world don't need more heroes. Heroes die. Heroes get crushed under the weight of other people's expectations. But monsters live forever. They become legends. Stories people whisper about in fear. They don't fade away. They don't get forgotten. And right now, you got the chance to become something more than they ever dreamed of. You ever heard the phrase, be careful what you wish for?
Yeah,
They wanted to see how far they could push you.
I know.
They wanted to see what you'd become when you finally snapped.
I know.
And now, they're gonna find out. They thought they were building a monster to control. But they were wrong. You ain't controlled by nobody now. You're free. And that freedom, that's what makes you dangerous. They ain't ready for you.
Nope.
They ain't ready for the storm that's coming. But that's their problem, not yours. You owe them nothing. Not your kindness. Not your forgiveness. Not even your attention. You walk down there, and you take what's yours. You rip it from their hands if you have to. And if they try to stand in your way, well, you show them just how real monsters can be. But here's the thing you gotta understand. Being a monster, it ain't about being cruel for the sake of it. It ain't about mindless rage. Number. It's about focus. It's about knowing exactly who you are, exactly what you want, and doing whatever it takes to get it. It's about clarity, about purpose. Monsters ain't chaotic. They're calculated. They see the world for what it is, a battlefield. And on that battlefield, you don't win by playing fair. You win by doing whatever it takes to survive, to thrive. And you're a survivor. Don't ever forget that. They wanted to break you, but here you are, standing taller than ever. And now, it's time to make your move. Time to stop hiding. Stop waiting. Stop hoping for a better day. You take that better day, and you make it yours. You wanted to know what it means to be a monster. This is it. You stop letting them define you. You stop letting them control you. And you take back everything they tried to steal. You think they're gonna respect you for it? Number. They'll fear you. And that's better. Because respect fades. Fear sticks. Fear keeps them in check. Fear makes sure they never forget your name. You feel feel that cold in your chest? That's not weakness. That's your edge. That's what sets you apart. Use it. Wield it like a weapon, and never let them see you hesitate. Monsters don't flinch. Monsters don't second guess. They move forward, unstoppable, relentless. And you're just getting started. You're not even close to understanding what you stepped into, are you? Standing here, you think it's just about fighting through, about surviving. But I told you, it's deeper than that. It's darker than that. You ain't climbing this mountain just to say you did it. Nah, you're climbing it because something inside you, something real, snapped. You lost your faith in this world. You stopped believing in second chances. You realized they don't exist for people like you, didn't you? They don't hand out mercy. Not to the broken. Not to the ones who've already been kicked down and left for dead. They wanted a monster. You've heard it your whole life, haven't you? They wanted to see what would happen if they pushed you just a little further. If they stripped away the last bit of hope you had. And when you snapped, they called you the villain. That's how they play it, right? They poke and prod until you can't take it no more. And then when you finally lose it, they act all surprised. Like they didn't create the thing standing in front of them. But here's the truth. And you better listen close because I'm only saying this once. They don't hate the monster they've made. They hate that they can't control it. That's why they're scared of you now. You stopped being predictable. You stopped being the person they can toy with, manipulate, use for their own gain. You stopped playing their game. And once you did that, you became dangerous. Let me ask you something. When you look at yourself, really look at yourself, what do you see? Do you still see that person who cared about what they thought? That person who worried about fitting in, about being accepted? Nah, that person's long gone. What's left? That's the monster they made. And let me tell you something else about monsters. They don't owe nobody nothing. They don't bend, they don't beg, and they sure as hell don't break just because someone else says they should. You understand what I'm saying? They wanted to see what would happen if you reached your limit. Well, guess what? You are the limit. You're the thing they can't measure, can't contain. You're the thing they fear, but don't understand. You ever wonder why people hate monsters so much? It ain't because of what monsters do. It's because monsters don't hide who they are. They're real. They're raw. They ain't putting on some mask, pretending to be something they're not. Monsters are honest, brutally honest. And people, fire and suffering in the darkness that most people run from. And when you stop running from it, when you face it head on, that's when you realize you ain't like them anymore. You've been through things they can't even imagine, and you survived. No, you thrived. You grew stronger. And now you're something else entirely. But here's the thing. You can't just be a monster. You gotta own it. You gotta own every scar, every wound, every drop of blood you shed on this climb. You gotta wear it like a badge, like armor, 'cause that's what it is. It's your shield against the world that tried to tear you apart. And every time they look at you, they're gonna see that armor, and it's gonna remind them of what they did. It's gonna remind them that they failed. And you don't let them forget. You don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you back down, of seeing you doubt yourself. You walk into their world, and you own every inch of it. You make them uncomfortable. You make them scared. And when they ask why, you tell them.
You know why?
Because you asked for this. You wanted to see what I would become when you pushed me too far. Now you get to live with it. But don't mistake what I'm saying. This ain't about revenge. This ain't about getting even. That's small-time thinking. Monsters don't waste their time on petty paybacks. Monsters look at the bigger picture. You're not here to hurt them. You're here to make sure they never forget that they can't break you. That no matter what they do, you'll rise. You'll climb. You'll take what's yours. They think they can chain you to their rules, to their expectations. You burn those chains to ash.
Watch what you said,
You
'cause I'll be
rise
playing
above
no
their
games.
limitations.
They're below and the one they call beast. They get down on their knees and swallow what's left of me. The little children that play in the street. I live in the belly of the beast. I got a glare in my eye. A little boy in this life. I know life is tough. We're gonna get beat up, but I'm gonna keep looking up and taking one step at a time. One step at a time. I'm rising up. Gonna take what's mine. One step at a time. One step at a time. I'm rising up. Gonna take what's mine. Word.
They're small minds. They're narrow views. You are beyond them now. You don't need their approval, their acceptance, their validation. You've got your own strength, your own power, and that's all you'll ever need. You ever wonder why people tell you to calm down, to take it easy, to be reasonable? It's because they see what you're capable of, and it terrifies them. They see that fire in your eyes, and they know that if you ever fully unleashed it, they'd be powerless to stop you. That's why they try to cage you, to control you. But here's the truth. Cages are for the weak, for the ones who are afraid to face the world as it is. You were never meant for a cage. You were meant to tear them down. So you want to know what comes next. You go back down that mountain, and you don't just survive. You dominate. You take everything they said you couldn't have. You become everything they said you'd never be. And when they try to drag you down, you don't fight them. You rise so high above them that they can't even reach you. And if they still want a monster, you give them one. You give them the kind of monster something greater than you could ever imagine. But to step into it, you gotta let go of everything that's holding you back. You gotta shed the last bit of that person you used to be. You gotta embrace the monster fully. The people down there, they don't deserve the version of you that's still holding on to hope. Still holding on to the idea that they'll change. They won't. They'll never understand you. Never accept you. And that's okay. You don't need them. You don't need anyone but yourself. They wanted a monster. Then you show them what it means to be untamed, unstoppable, and unbreakable. You show them that the thing they created is more powerful than they ever imagined. You become the nightmare that haunts them, the force they can't control. And when it's all said and done, you'll stand at the top of the mountain, looking down at the world that tried to break you. And you'll know, deep in your bones, you're not just surviving anymore. You're ruling.
What you want to do is save hundreds when Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance.
That's great, but can you ask your friend to stop digging into the green?
I can ask, but he's not going to. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Damn it. That's done.
I need you to know that you're enough. I need you to know that you're qualified. I need you to know that all you have is all you need. You are an unrepeatable miracle, and there is none like you in all of the earth. And if nobody told you today, let me be the first to tell you, there is none like you in all of the earth. Your DNA, your footprint, your fingerprint, your purpose, your calling, your destiny, your mindset, your mentality. And I'm just wondering if you are bold enough and courageous enough to believe what I'm saying. You are enough. And the truth of the matter is, what you think is pain, what you think is hurting you, is actually helping you. And I'm just wondering if maybe you could just change the way that you think. Maybe if you could just see this thing differently. I know they left you, they hurt you, it left you, it hurt you. And you feel like you're just in this place where you can't move forward. See it differently. You've been too focused on the people that don't like you, the people that don't support you, the people that told you to write the book and then when you released it, they never bought it. You've been too focused on past childhood traumas. You've been too focused on who was not there for you and who did not believe in you. And the people that just said it but didn't do it, the trauma, the anxiety. And I'm wondering if you can begin to shift that focus in the next 30 days, if you can begin to shift that focus on what's working in your life, what's within your control and not what's outside of your control. What can you control? Who can you influence? The first person that needs to be influenced in your life is you. It's you. And I'm just wondering if you're courageous enough, bold enough, if you have enough faith, come on, if you have enough inside of you, resilience to come back to the scene. It starts with me and the man upstairs, and it ends right here. Our lives don't get better by chance. They get better by change. Change is one of the necessary laws of life. Remember this. Action
To make the
and
change.
adaptability create opportunity. Adapt and overcome. And watch everything change before your eyes. Adaptability isn't just some secret for survival. It is the power to
build the future. Adaptability is the capacity to be modified for a new purpose, to be moved this way and still punch through targets and reach my goals and be everything I've been called to be, but I've got to adapt to the times. Adaptability requires movement. Adaptability requires growth. Adaptability requires wisdom and knowledge and understanding and revelation and awareness. We've got to be able to recognize when we're outdated, when we need an upgrade, when we've got to go to that next level, and I can't be embarrassed about it. Adaptability is not buckling under pressure. Adaptability is understanding that in order for me to have this lifestyle that I see in my head, I'm going to have to raise my standards. This is an adjustment. This is a modification that in times past, this version of me was good enough, but it only got me where I am. And in order for me to go to that next level, something inside of me has to change. So when you face storm, when you face adversity, when you face trial, when you face tribulation, in the eye of the storm, in the middle, in the core of your devastation, when you are faced with opposition, that's when you raise the heat. You don't change your message, you change your methodology. Are you understanding me? Adaptability is not buckling under pressure. Adaptability is not losing your moral compass. Adaptability is raising your voice. And so the harder life hits me, the harder I'm going to fight, the harder I'm going to believe, the harder I'm going to keep pushing, I'm going to keep going, I will persevere, and I'm going to build resilience. And so the harder life hits, the stronger I get. You've got problem-solving skill, you've got a resilience, you have a determination, you have a measure of commitment that nobody in the room has because you've been able to adapt. And for many of us, we are in the halftime of our destiny. And if you're going to win, you are going to have to make the adjustments, the necessary modifications to have your future. When I become more flexible, more agile, more adaptable, another thing that happens is that we build our inner resilience. And this isn't just about honing in on your problem-solving skills, but resilience literally changes your brain. It changes your operating systems. It shifts your behavior. Resilience empowers you to build new habits. It's not running from your programming. It's upgrading. It's taking it to the next level. The necessary growth strategies, necessary modification, personality adjustment, attitude upgrades, the necessary. The wise adapt themselves to the circumstances like water molds itself to the pitcher. To understand the revelation of adaptability is to realize that life is lived on levels. I've got angles, I've got approaches, that destiny is in the details. It's how I see this thing. It's how I can adjust my thinking. It's how I can upgrade my inter software. At some point, you gotta sit back and think to yourself, you know what? I've been here too long. I've thought like this too long. I've hurt too long. I've been fractured long enough. I've been depressed long enough. You know what? I've been here too long. It's time for me to go. We all have to get here where we realize we have not adapted to the current times. And this is not a departure from authenticity. This is not losing yourself. This is finding your next level. The question is, are you willing to adapt? Adaptability is the bridge to the future. I need to be able to adapt cognitively. I gotta be able to adapt emotionally, my personality, my behavior, my language, my thinking. I've got to be able to adapt, and it is only when I'm willing to accept this reality that I can have my future. When I become more flexible, more agile, more adaptable, another thing that happens is that we build our inner resilience. And this isn't just about honing in on your problem-solving skills, but resilience literally changes your brain. It shifts your behavior. It's time to break through. You've lost long enough. You've been in your learning season long enough. It's time to apply what you've learned. Adaptability is not buckling under pressure. Adaptability is not losing your moral compass. Adaptability is raising your voice. You got to start thinking about the future. You've got to start thinking about sustainability. You got to start thinking about future generations. Your perspective, how you see this thing, how you approach this thing, the angles that you take, the approaches, the mentalities, just one little tweak in the game, and there is a future for your family. And this is the power of understanding that if I can make a few tweaks, if I can make a few adjustments, if I can see this thing just a hair differently, winner by a hair. Have you ever heard that? There are champions that win by hair because they made an adjustment. There are golf players and basketball players and football players and soccer players and fighters and warriors and NASCAR drivers and champions and lecturers and teachers and students, movie directors and artists and people all over the globe who have made adjustments, who have adapted to a circumstance, who have adapted, who have modified and tweaked their game and beat on their craft and got the trophy. This is why there's power in mentorship, because a mentor will show you something you didn't see. A coach will pull something out of you that you never knew was there. The ability to adapt, to make a tweak, to make an adjustment. It's the group of employees that's been called to work 2 more hours. It's the team that's been called to win a championship in the snow or rain or sleet, or the weather's changed, or now all of a sudden the crowd is no longer cheering your name. Can you adapt? This is the question. This is the golden ticket. Everybody wants to win, and everybody wants new zip codes and area codes, and everybody wants impact and influence. But if I don't have adaptability, I'll never have my future. This is the last day you are going to allow this giant to defy you. If it's going to happen, we are going to have to eliminate excuses. Truth is, everybody's got purpose. If you don't apply what you hear, you won't get what you want. Here's what we do know. Life doesn't get any easier. It doesn't get more forgiving. We just get stronger and we get more resilient. And the truth of the matter is, it is so convenient to make an excuse. I want to give you just a few things that you can do to help you to stop making excuses, to help you to stop habitually gravitating to the place called convenience. The race is not given to the strong nor the swift, but it is given to he that endureth until the end. One thing I know is that we've all been hit with a measure of adversity at some point in our life. Everybody listening to me has been hit with a measure of trauma. If you can hear my voice, you've got work to do. You've got a destiny to fulfill. You've got a purpose to walk into. You've got a test to pass. You've got dots to connect, rooms to walk in, stages to stand on, and tables to sit down at. I know it hasn't been easy, but it's time to win. You are going to need vision. Before you win, you're going to have to see it. David saw himself winning this battle. He saw it. He spoke it. He experienced it. If you can see it, you can have it. We all want to do something. We all want to be somebody. We all want to go somewhere. If these things are going to happen, we've got to stop habitually gravitating to excuse. Number one, rule number one, kill the comparison game. Well, I don't do it like them, and I don't say it like them, and I'm not as tall as them, and I'm not as strong as them, and I don't have the money that they have. I don't have the resources that they have. The reason why I couldn't do it is because my parents weren't there for me, and the reason why I didn't get to go to college on a full ride because my coach, he didn't create the highlight reel for the sports scholarship. The reason why. And so we're just programmed to blame everybody else. When will you look in the mirror and stop comparing yourself to everybody else? This is what we know. We know this. Could have been a sudden or unexpected death of a loved one. Could have been an accident, life-threatening illness or injury, sexual assault, mental abuse, physical abuse,
Not all of it.
emotional trauma, a sudden violent death in the family, the loss of a child, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a job, exposure to drugs and alcohol, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety. One thing we know is that adversity, conflict, trauma does not discriminate. We are all acquainted with pain. Many of you listening to me know what it's like to lose everything. You know what it's like to hit rock bottom. You know what it's like not to be supported. You know what it's like to be lied on. You know what it's like to experience emotional, relational, and psychological trauma. And it changes you because you don't know what you are made of until you have gone through something. On the other side of your fear is a fulfilled destiny. How bad do you want it? Whatever your giant may be, name the giant. You will defy me no more. You will defy me no more. When your giant defies you, when your giant teases you, when your giant attempts to trap you and remind you of your present and your past, remind your giant of his future. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. No more will you haunt me. Goliath